So, I was watching the anime Bakuman a couple weeks ago. It's an anime about how two characters, Mashiro and Takagi, go about creating their own manga. The path these two take in cooperatively illustrating, writing, and publishing their own manga, I just found really interesting. So, I decided to give my own insights on the topic. And I hope you guys will enjoy this. This is Dr. Apolli, and this is my take on entrepreneurship and creative endeavors. Let's go. In our society, we've distilled the majority of careers down to a very specific schedule. We follow the same 9-to-5 formula, and the majority of us work under someone. We work under established domains which leave little in the room for creativity. But we weren't always like this. As children, we have amazing imaginations and wild dreams. We haven't experienced things like social conventions or social norms or hierarchy. They don't know much about the world, so they have to use their elaborate imaginations to make sense of things. As we move into schools, we get punished for that. We're rewarded for thinking in a specific way and are told to robotically memorize specific arbitrary facts. There's social conventions that we have to follow now. We have expectations from our parents and from our teachers, and that's because it's the safer option. Being a cog in the already established corporate machine is a lot safer than trying to start your own thing. Creative endeavors are inherently risky. If they fail, they make no money, and there's a lot more failures out there than there are success stories. I'll expand on that later. So in order to give yourself the best chance at success, it is best to conform and work within an already established system than try and make your own. And this will necessarily drain your creativity. And by the way, there's nothing actually wrong with this. Many people can take joy and find satisfaction in their work even if they're doing something that other people are doing. Maybe you love your job working in HR or computer science like many others did before you. I think it's wonderful if you fall into that. But some people don't. Some people have this passion to do something else. Despite the society they live in, there are certain people who retain that childlike imagination into adulthood. These are the people who attempt to blaze their own trails, pursuing their own unique passions and preferences, becoming musicians, writers, entrepreneurs, artists, and mangaka. Working within what you're passionate about in this way is perhaps the ultimate example of autonomy and personal expression. You're telling the world that regardless of what mold society tries to put on you, you choose to live how you see fit. You have such a passion to live out your life in a certain way that you won't let society stop you from doing that. Now, on a more pragmatic level, if you succeed, it is extremely lucrative. I won't be talking about that side very much, there isn't really much to say about that. But yeah. The people who attempt to blaze their own trail, taking on jobs they feel passionate about, are to be commended and encouraged. This path is far more risky and oftentimes far harder. It also often requires a lot more work to maintain. In Bakuman, Mashiro's uncle dies from overworking himself. And even he himself starts to overwork himself. You may complain about the 40-hour work week, but the 40-hour work week is extremely light compared to those who blaze their own trails, such as CEOs or, in this case, mangaka. Sometimes you can strike gold and get an easy job you feel passionate about and don't have to work very long. But that's usually the exception and not the rule. This is, by majority, a high-risk and high-reward line of work. What exacerbates this stress is the fact that success isn't guaranteed. You also aren't paid for the amount of work that you get done, but rather how successful your work is. Not only do you need proficient skill in whatever you're creating, you also need a firm grasp of marketing and your target audience and stuff like that. I can't speak for other professions, but if you want to become a YouTuber, you have to be able to edit photos, edit videos, be a brand manager, manage social media. In most cases, you also have to be pretty competent with the camera, and you also have to be a product manager. You don't have to be a master at all of these, but you generally need some level of proficiency in all of them. I wouldn't consider myself a YouTuber, but it is something I've noticed that comes with the occupation. We don't think entrepreneurial creative work is risky or hard because we see so many success stories. We only really see the success stories. But in reality, your chance of failure is extremely high. What happens when you're in Tokyo and you find no one cares about your travel blog and now you can't finance your trip? What happens when you spend 3 years self-publishing a novel only to sell 12 copies? This is what will likely happen, and this is what has happened to most people. Your future is very insecure if you aren't already established. You're in a competition against everyone else and you're trying to make it out. But only people at the top can really make it. And there's only so many winners and there's only so much room at the top. Very few people are even allowed to make it up there. Saiko's uncle spoke of becoming a mangaka as a sort of gamble, and I think he's at least somewhat right. One of the ingredients in entrepreneurial success is luck. You can't directly control who engages with your work. This isn't to say that you shouldn't give yourself the best chance possible by advertising yourself properly and optimizing searches and etc. But it is to say that you can't fully determine if you will succeed. When you're beginning, you will require a little bit of luck. Saiko and Shujin are luckily very young. They have the time and energy to learn. They can afford to take risks and fail because no one else is dependent on them. We're also afraid of failing in our society, but I would say that because they're young, they actually have the luxury of failing. What I found especially interesting and especially motivational about this pair is that they're very easily able to move on to the next project. They don't get too hung up on anything. Speaking from personal experience, I often work really hard on projects, see them not do as well, and then slip up into a slump for a few days. After you pour your heart and soul into a project, you have to move on to the next as your audience has already taken in and absorbed everything. We live in a fast-paced, low attention span society. You have to keep coming up with something new. Now, sometimes you can find your own thing that you can just repeat over and over again in different ways, but not always. These two are able to work hard on something and quickly move past it. One of the hardest and most overlooked things about this line of work is being consistent. You may strike gold once or twice, but consistent bangers are usually what you need to make a living. Bakuman speaks of those who can work on the fly and make great work, and those who analyze and calculate the formula for success. The calculated ones won't produce as many bangers as they are thinking within the confines of what has already worked, borrowing from trends that have worked in the past as opposed to creating their own trends, but they will make consistent work, and this will help ease their stress. On episode 4 of Bakuman, Saiko begins to overwork himself. He didn't study for his test and was sleepy-eyed the whole time pulling all-nighters working. This is an example of how you have to forego some things in order to get other things. Equivalent exchange, as another anime would put it. That time you spend messing around on Netflix or playing video games will have to be sacrificed in order to work on your goals. Most of the time you can't just do something on the side for fun until it becomes your job. Not to say that you shouldn't have fun, but it is to say that you should also make a conscious, deliberate effort to try and make it there to your goals. Eiichiro Oda, the creator of One Piece, famously said he wanted to become a mangaka to avoid getting a, quote, real job. That's great that he has that ambition, but what ends up happening more times than not is that he has to work harder to make that creative pursuit his full-time job. That may all be worth it, and it may give you more joy as you work because you're working on something you're passionate about, but it's still work. You can escape a job, or at least a traditional job, but you cannot escape work. Life is work, and I think that's good. Almost nothing will be worth having if you didn't work for it. That's why people who win lotteries rarely ever live happily ever after. They never developed into someone who deserves that kind of money, they just got it. What ends up happening resultantly if you fail is that you end up feeling entitled to success. You've been conditioned to believe in an egalitarian society that if you work hard, you will automatically achieve success. The only thing separating those at the top and those at the bottom were those who worked harder, those who showed more grit. But that isn't true, especially in these creative endeavors. This makes it extremely painful to fail. I often see artists particularly get mad about this and blame the system. They believe they're brilliant but underappreciated, and maybe that's true, but that's not how your line of work works. Making people care about your skill is just as important as the skill itself. Many people end up failing and pursuing normal careers. Again, there's nothing wrong with this. This lets them focus on other things and derive purpose from those other things. They may not derive joy from their work, but perhaps they derive joy from their family. In this case, your job is a means to an end. Your job is a vehicle in which you can help provide and care for things that you actually do care about. I would even say the same thing for people who attain their dream jobs as well. Your job, no matter how satisfying, won't fully fill you up. It is still a vehicle for things that matter more. Masashi Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto, waited more than 10 years after getting married to finally have his honeymoon with his wife. This was because he was working on his manga. Only after it finished did he take a much needed break to take his wife on a honeymoon. We all recognize intrinsically that there's something deeply troubling about this. Despite the fact that he was doing what he loved and changed people's lives for the better, he neglected a core, intimate part of his life. And I'm sure Kishimoto would even agree. It is in my opinion that it is more fulfilling to mean the world to a few people than to mean a little bit to a lot of people. Even if you fail, you'll be able to show your children and extended family what you did. You can take pride in what you did and recognize that it helped you grow as a person. Perseverance does not guarantee success, but it does guarantee that you'll be satisfied with your efforts. Thank you all for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed that. Oh yeah, sorry for being gone for the past 6 months. I've been working on other things in the background and working on other things just in general. Not all of it is related to the channel, but yeah, I've been doing some other stuff in the background. I think I owe you guys like some sort of explanation, so here we go. First of all, I've actually been writing a book. It's basically finished as far as I can tell, but there's a bunch of other random stuff in the background that's not letting me release it. So, I mean, I don't know when I'm gonna release it, but it will be released at some point. And when it is released, I'll actually upload something saying you can pre-order it, and that'll be that. I mean, I guess that's a decent excuse for me not uploading for so long, but I was actually working on it before I took this hiatus. I think I started working on it in May, April. I think I just made some like very, very general notes for it in April, but I really started working on it in like May or June, and I took this hiatus in like September. So like that isn't the only reason I've been gone, but it's a major reason I've been gone, considering I decided to work on that a lot more during my hiatus compared to before. The second reason is that I haven't actually stopped making videos. I just haven't released them publicly. The videos talk about this book, talk about themes that are in that book, so I can't release them until I have, well, I can, but like I want to release them when I have a pre-order link for you guys to actually pre-order the book. So like I've finished like 4 or 5 videos related to the book, but I haven't released them. I just can't release them right now. The third thing, this is kind of a minor thing, but I've been trying to release a merch store where you can buy shirts like this. People have been asking me about it for literally years, ever since I changed my channel logo back in like 2018 or something like that. People have been asking me for merchandise for this logo, especially when I first showed it off in, I believe it was my Iroh something or other video, Iroh body transformation video. I have like 6 Iroh videos at this point. I'm holding off on actually publishing the merch store because I have to actually buy the merch and like test it for myself to see if it's good. I bought it on December 23rd and it still hasn't shown up, and today's date is like January 15th, I think. So I don't know what's going on with that. The third reason is like I'm about to graduate college now, and this last semester was genuinely very stressful because I just had a lot more work to do than I usually have. You know, not much more to explain than that, just more schoolwork, I guess. And lastly, I decided to start making another channel about health and fitness. If you've watched my channel for like any length of time, you'd realize that I always use fitness metaphors. I always talk about or indirectly promote exercise in some way in like a lot of my videos. I have a video up on there already. It's called Fixing Flexibility Day 1. It's a series where I document fixing my flexibility. I am a very, very stiff athlete. I've always been that way ever since I was in high school, probably earlier, but I remember finding out about it since I was in high school. So if you're interested in that, you guys can go check out the link there. So there you have it. Writing a book, creating a merch store, making videos related to that book, schoolwork, and starting to kind of sort of make videos on another channel. That's kind of why I've been gone for the past 6 months. I hope you guys can understand. Hopefully I don't go away for 6 months again, but I mean, who knows. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you all next time. Peace out.